Welcome to our channel Art Select. We are here to inspire and motivate the next generation of artists and designers. Join us today as we share stories from selected creatives about their process through interviews and study of their works and their advice throughout their career as an artist or designer. Whether you're just starting out or seeking inspiration, Art Select is for you. Get ready to learn about the creative processes of selected creatives. If you find the video interesting, please like and subscribe to get notified of our upcoming videos. Thanks to Virgil Abloh, we have been so inspired that we wanted to make a video and share what he had to say. We decided to make a video dedicated to him, who is truly one of the most influential people in today's fashion industry. In this video, we present to you his 9 pieces of advice for artists and designers, which we hope can inspire you on your journey as an artist or designer. Advice number 1. Be optimistic.
If you asked a human walking down the street, can you lift a car, almost before even thinking, they would say no. But as you can see by this image, like 10 people, 11 people can lift a car and save a life. And I think that that's how I metaphorically view optimism and view how you can change the physical world through a number of ways of sort of breaking your knee-jerk reaction.
Advice number 2. Beginner's advantage.
But this is bar none, one of my best pieces of advice, period, is that the best gift of being early in your career is that you can completely take everything that you've done, roll it up in a ball, and throw it in the trash. Like, I swear, it doesn't seem like a gift. It's the biggest gift on planet Earth. Because what happens is, you start an idea and you start telling a friend about it, right? You know, then you change your Instagram bio, you know, like creative director of said brand name. And then you're like, you meet a few people around town and you're like, oh, this is my brand. This is what I do. So like 3 days from that original start of changing your Instagram bio, you feel like you can't change. You feel like if you do, then everyone thinks that you failed and then the brand doesn't exist and yada, yada, yada. And I swear, like, from a brand name, so many times I meet people that, like, they've evolved from the name that they've started. And it's like, just throw the name away and come up with a new one, you know, or your brand premise. Or, you know, so if you thought that, you know, you wanted to do streetwear one day and then you're like, wait, I'm seeing too many streetwear things. This is not, I haven't even launched, you know, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to go couture or tailoring, or I saw a film and that inspired me. Like, screw that. Like, there's no fault, and it's actually your greatest, like, it's your greatest power.
Advice number 3. Failure is okay.
A piece of advice that I got on a business sense. So take creativity away from it. Just when my first business, like, had like a shady business partner and it like imploded and it was like super emotional and you're kind of like, wait, there's money involved and it was a creative thing. Someone gave me the piece of advice. He's like, hey, don't you know everyone's first business fails? And that lifted a weight off my shoulder because I was thinking like, oh, my first business is going to pay for my whole family. You know, I'm going to build like the first invoice. You start thinking that that's your road to be like your, you know, anyone successful, you know, and it's like, your life has to go down. So that's my 2 pieces of advice, both on the creative side. It's temporary. Use that to fuel the next. And on the business side, don't be shocked. Don't get thrown back by that happening.
Advice number 4. Making sure it sticks.
Like, you have to be able to elevator pitch it. And that briefness is about making sure it sticks. You know, I talk a lot. I can do run-on sentences for a day, but I can also, in 15 words, describe what my brand is about and what my summarize. You know, if anyone, because the only reason why we're giving you these jewels is because someone, in order for it to be quote unquote successful, which can be anything, doesn't mean money, but in order for it to be successful, is that someone outside of yourself can understand the litany of ideas in your head. You know, that's always, it's helpful than not. So being able to summarize is key. So 15 words brand. But then when Samuel talked about, and Peter brought up like the typeface, like what's your name? And your name the name of the brand should equally tie back into the brand, what it means. Or it doesn't have to, but you should be able to, in one sentence, get someone's brain to go, aha, I get it. And then the typeface, like what's your logo look like? What's the label look like? What would the garment be? What's the color of the brand? All these sorts of things make great brand architecture. Of course, you can not have them, but if you look at, say, Rick Owens, right? You can feel the typeface, the label, the hang tag, and the store, and that the music in the store, what it would take to feel like. Samuel has that with a cold wall, like the sound, you can hear the sound, you can see the wax label. I know the typography because it's linked to that manifesto, and it's linked to his premise. That is great brand architecture that sets you up to win as you're building brand equity.
Advice number 5, know better.
I love this phrase that I heard this year, and I think it super applies to the moment we're in now, is that you have to know better to do better. And it's a simple statement, but I think that just means, to me, it's like there's areas to learn. Like, no one is born with a political stance in mind, or no one is born knowing the intricacies of right and wrong. And I think it's important to sort of live in a world and make open space for doing what exactly we're doing, is having dialogue and allowing people to talk.
Advice number 6, scrapiness matters.
When you're starting, you're going to find, like, you don't have the right factory contact. You don't have the right fabrics, production, like all these like very, very big hurdles. And my approach is always like, if you can get a garment, there's millions of clothes everywhere, like whether or not they're designed or whatever, if you can take that and like going to your local tailor and editing the piece the way that you see fit and going to an embroiderer and making the embroidery there, like, that's a perfectly good place to start. Even if you only have one prototype, you can make a dress by going to a vintage store, taking 3 of them, cutting them in half, putting them together, so of course there's a practicality, but there's also just a scrappiness that works. And that's what's possible. So focusing on what's possible and what's at arm's reach, rather than being like, oh, I don't have the resources, because that's the nature of starting out. We didn't have resources either, and it was our scrappiness that makes us designers today. It's not our resources.
Advice number 7, fail your way through.
This is about sort of passing on things that I've learned to a generation of people that can maybe apply it in their own way to their own careers. I made this when I was a student. If you look at this block vertically as like your obstacle, there's a mentality just to go straight through it and thinking that that's the straightest route, that's going to be the most efficient. There's another way, which is sort of going the long, hard, roundabout way, which is 10 times longer, but actually ends up getting to your end result. That looks more like my career on the right. And I sort of came in at an early stage and sort of looked at that block and saying, hey, it's a tall task for me to dream and want to be the head at Louis Vuitton or work with Nike. But I'm still going to get there, and I don't care about when, I just care about if I get there or not. And that long winding road I don't know if I'm going towards B, I don't know if I'm going the right direction, but I'm learning all the way through, failing all the way through, actually makes my career today.
Advice number 8, foster a community.
Fostering community is a super important thing. A lot of people individualize their trajectory, but as soon as you foster a community with the same trajectory, your success becomes real. This year has showed us that there's injustices that lurk in lots of different corners, but community effort does make change. The impossible is possible when unified and when sort of believing that it can occur.
Advice number 9, knowing what you can do.
You can't waste even a day subscribing to what someone thinks you can do versus knowing what you can do. And that's like the switch. It's like the switch in your head is if you can get to a place where you can act on that in the next hour after we're done speaking, I guarantee you it's a domino effect. Everything just starts like sort of like obliterating itself away.
We believe in the capacity of every person to be creative. We are here to inspire and motivate the next generation of artists and designers. If you find the video interesting, please like and subscribe to get notified of our upcoming videos.
Mama 75, same color. Mama told me I never said a word. Mama, say